I'll be speaking on spiritual capital. Spiritual capital. Now, spiritual capital is God's substance in God's spirit, finding an expression in man's spirit for the purpose of profit making. Let me come again. Spiritual capital is God's substance in God's spirit, finding an expression in man's spirit for the purpose of making profit. Now, spiritual substance is in the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is in you. What that means is the spiritual capital I'm referring to now is in the Holy Spirit, and that Holy Spirit is in you. So, how much spiritual capital you have access to will be determined by how much you submit to the Holy Spirit. Are you there? It is how much of that capital, how much of that spiritual capital you have that will determine how much a blessing you can be to your generation. Now, the fruits and the gifts of the Spirit are spiritual capitals given to us by God, but accessible through the Spirit of God. Let me give you an example of a spiritual capital. The gift of faith is an example of a spiritual capital. If you have that capital, there are a lot of things you can change on earth. There are a lot of people you can influence their life positively. Can you see that? Now, the gift of prophecy is another spiritual capital. You see, those things you can get from the Holy Spirit, they are the things that are called spiritual capitals. So, spiritual capital is anything the Holy Spirit can offer you. Whatever you can get on the strength of your walk with the Spirit of God is called spiritual capital. So, and you must understand that it is those spiritual capitals that will make a difference in your life. You cannot even do anything kingdom if you don't have a spiritual capital, because kingdom work is a spiritual work. So you need something from the Spirit of God to be fitted for the kingdom assignment. So my question to you is, how many spiritual capital do you have? It will interest you to also know that the gift of discernment of spirit is also a spiritual capital. You will need that to know the difference between what is really good and what looks like good. You will need that to know the difference between what is good and what seems to be good. Then there are some things that are not good, but they look like they are good. So you will know the difference when you have the spiritual capital called discernment of spirit. Are you there? So we have a lot of them. The word of knowledge, that's also a spiritual capital. Ability to know things that has happened even when you are not there. That's a spiritual capital. And all these spiritual capitals are those things that will come together to make you a blessing. A minister cannot be a blessing if he lacks spiritual capitals. That's why when God gave us the Holy Spirit, all the spiritual capitals we need for kingdom business were engrafted into the Holy Spirit. So the more we submit to the Holy Spirit, the more spiritual capital we have access to. There are some who have just one. You can't compare the effectiveness of the man that has just one spiritual capital to the man that have about 10. Can you see the margin? So the more of the spiritual capital you are able to have access to will define how how high your effectiveness will be. It will define the degree of your effectiveness. I pray the Lord will help us even to access these spiritual capitals in order to be a blessing to our generation in Jesus.